You are now tuned in to your number one radio station,
87.9.
We interrupt this program for a special report by WKMU.
Staten Island, New York. Hey everybody, this is
Sky
and Blue, and you're listening to WKMU Radio presents What If? Like, what if Bob Lazar was right? What if the CIA had Kennedy in their sights? Or for this episode, what if Vince McMahon had a hit list? This is going to be a true crime episode that happens to feature wrestlers. If you know us, you know if it doesn't sound right, it's time to investigate. So let's get right into it.
Let's get right into it.
As some of us know, right now, Vince McMahon is in some hot water for some alleged sex trafficking.
Yeah, if you don't know, Vince McMahon has been accused of taking women who work for him and basically like pimping them out to people. Like, oh, go have sex with this wrestler. Go have sex with this wrestler. And that's what the trafficking comes from. It's like he sent them around to, like, even like allegedly Brock Lesnar, who was champion UFC fighter, was supposed to hook up with this chick. Like, that's one of the benefits of re-signing with them.
Okay, that's kind of gross.
Supposedly. Even that sounds like a little weird. It's just one woman. Like, oh, I get this one woman as a bonus? Oh, okay, let me sign up.
Maybe her pussy's gold. I don't know.
Golden pussy.
And he's also known as a ruthless businessman who was willing to bet on himself to succeed. And he's also known to sometimes treat wrestlers how they should have been treated.
Yeah, not treat them how they should have been. Yeah, that was my fault. That's my writing. That's a second one we put up.
So he's known to be shitty towards his like coworkers,
basically.
Okay, his co-wrestlers.
And then, yeah, so at one time there was a wrestler named Brian Pillman. And what if Brian Pillman was on that list? Now, at the time in the 90s, Brian Pillman was a rising high-flying star. He liked to jump up the ropes, make, fancy stuff. And he was actually teamed up with Stone Cold Steve Austin in WCW before Stone Cold became Stone Cold. And they had a good little run together.
Okay.
So then why would Vince McMahon want this man dead? So some of the things I wanted to get into is Hulk Hogan. It kind of all starts with Hulk Hogan with Brian Pillman on this one. Hogan knew Pillman was on the rise. And he was like, you know what? They call it heat in wrestling. He gets good heat, like cheers, boos. Hogan, who was like sort of in his twilight career, like aging down, he was like 45 to 50. He wasn't doing, physically, he's not that great. He was never that great as a wrestler.
Really?
Yeah. A lot of times he used backstage politics, which is he kind of did here, was he wanted to beat Brian Pillman, get some heat on himself. Like, oh, yeah, I beat this new guy. He's up and coming. He's nothing compared to Hulk Hogan. And then after that, so they start setting it up, and Brian Pillman hears about it. And he knows what kind of person Hogan is. So he had to have a surgery done already, and he decided to continue with it anyway. Because he needed to have it done. It was on his throat. He had like a lot of throat problems. So he was like, he's like, I need this. Sorry, I got a little beep. So he basically says like, I need this surgery. Eventually, let me do it now while Hogan wants to fight me and steal all my thunder. So he can sort of duck away.
So he knows he needs to go on surgery. He basically lets Hulk Hogan beat him.
No, he does the surgery so Hulk Hogan can't beat him.
Oh, so Hulk Hogan will never wrestle against him.
Yeah.
Because he's in surgery and he can't wrestle while he's recovering.
Yeah.
So he's kind of taken that away from Hulk Hogan, the glory of beating him.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. When he was better, he would wrestle for ECW.
That's Extreme Championship Wrestling based out in Pennsylvania, done by Paul Heyman.
While wrestling for ECW, Pillman tricked WCW into giving him release to help a storyline he was going into with ECW.
Yeah, so basically ECW, he was the fired wrestler from WCW, even though he was still under contract. So basically he went back to WCW and said, hey, this would really help build heat for the matches if you just give my release so that I can go over there and say, see, they released me.
This is when Pillman manipulated WCW, ECW, and the WWF against each other. This way, he can get a bigger payday, so create more heat.
Well,
by getting all these companies against each other?
Well, not heat. This was just to get a bigger payday. At this time, wrestlers weren't paid that much. You know, they were getting a little lower than what they deserve. So he kind of did this thing where he got WWF to finally sign him to a guaranteed contract by playing him like, oh, I'm going to go wrestle for WCW. I'm a hot, you know, you need me. Look at all this. Even in ECW, they love him. Like, he's creating good matches there and so let's get him here. And so Vince McMahon signs him to a guaranteed contract, which Vince never does. He considers these wrestlers contractors, not employees. So I contract you for a couple shows this week, and then I give you this much money.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like the only second time someone actually got guaranteed money. And so on June 10th, 1996, Brian Pillman signed a 3-year contract, paying him $300,000 a year.
Wow.
It's a lot of money.
I mean, right now that's like nothing, but back then I'm sure that's a lot of money.
What was that? I said 95?
Yeah, 96.
96.
So basically right away, Pillman injured himself in an accident.
Yeah, he got on his motorcycle and crashed it or something like that. It really hurt his ankle.
Oh, wow. And then he spent most of his first year commentating.
Yeah, that's the guy at the side of the ring and like, oh, and then he gave him clothesline. Here comes the drop kick.
Yeah.
So he basically is getting paid to talk to the
comment
audience.
on what
Other
he sees.
people wrestling, yeah.
So he lost a hot talent.
Yeah, Vince did.
And when Pillman was healed, he wasn't as good as he used to be.
So this is the crux of what I think could be a what if. Like, what if Vince McMahon was upset at being manipulated into giving Pillman this guaranteed money, and then for almost $1 million over 3 years, he was going to be lost. You know, for the first year, he couldn't wrestle the most of the time. He was on the commentating. And then when he finally came back, he was very limited what he could do in the ring. And, you know, Vince McMahon's this powerful money who's allegedly Illuminati, you know, stonemason. You know, he got some powerful people in politics. Maybe he's just one of those people you don't just fool around like that. And then I'm paying you all this money and you can't even wrestle like you used to. So
Right.
I just lost $1 million on somebody who's basically broken.
Yeah. That's fucked up. Yeah, 300,000 and then he got in an accident.
Mm-hmm.
So are you trying to insinuate that like he did this on purpose?
Who did this on purpose?
Pillman
Did what?
got hurt.
No, it was an accident.
Okay.
He wanted to wrestle. Nobody wants to hurt themselves. They can't wrestle as good as they used to because you're going to lose money.
Right. Oh, okay. So he's trying to scam them, but he's still trying to perform.
No. It's not about scamming them still. He already got the money. He got the 3-year.
No, but I mean before the money agreement, he was trying to kind of see what he could get.
Yeah,
get
as
the
much
most
as
out
money.
of.
Yeah.
And then he just happened to get in an accident.
Right. Like literally like the next day.
That's crazy.
And then there's a thing that kind of bothers me is like when Vince McMahon was announcing Pillman's death, Vince said it was because of drugs before the autopsy was actually finished. The later report said he had a heart attack. So where is this background information from? Where is he getting information that he died from drugs? Like, you know, because maybe, you know, being part of the Illuminati, you know how I say CIA has a dart gun that gives heart attacks to people. What if he just assumed that the drugs were going to give him a heart attack? So he called it the drugs killed him instead of the heart attack.
Right. I mean, don't a lot of wrestlers and like football players, baseball players, they do like steroids and stuff, and they do like fucked up things to enhance their performance.
Yeah.
So
these
isn't it
wrestlers are
kind
steroids.
of like, could it be possible that he really did die from drugs?
Of course, this is just a what if, a fun. And there's just a lot of like weird deaths throughout the years with wrestlers who were either turning his back on him or got hurt and couldn't do what they used to.
I feel like nowadays too, with like celebrities, like other celebrities, not just wrestlers, like they die suddenly and it's like, oh, drugs in their system. And it's just like, it is kind of really suspicious. Like
Just sprinkle
everybody's,
crack on them and they'll be fine.
all of them are on drugs, like every single one.
Well, a lot of them do painkillers and stuff like that because of the toll that wrestling 300 times a year
right.
can have on a body. You know, even though it's scripted and, you know, quotation mark fake, you know, there are botches where something goes wrong, someone breaks a neck, breaks a leg, breaks an ankle.
And I'm sure throwing yourself, even though you know you're throwing yourself, it's still gonna hurt. Like I'm sure.
Yep.
Like serving, I carry these heavy trays. I'm like, I got this. And then one day I'm probably going to be like fucked up.
Yeah, something's going to crunch and you're going to fall over. You drop in the trash can like that video.
Oh my God. That girl was stupid. So what if Owen Hart's death wasn't an accident?
For those that don't know, Owen Hart died by falling about 70 feet head first into a turnbuckle trying to do a stunt.
What's a turnbuckle?
A turnbuckle is, a wrestling ring even isn't a ring. It's actually a square.
Yeah.
And in each quarter, you see those 3 padded things. Those
Right.
are turnbuckles.
Oh, okay. He threw himself off one of those.
No, he fell onto it face first, 70 feet.
Oh my God. That sounds terrible. So the official story, Owen Hart was portraying the blue blazer gimmick, and he was going to be lowered in the ring like a superhero.
Mm-hmm.
Before the stunt was supposed to begin, there was a loud pop, and Owen fell about 75 feet face first into a turnbuckle. The show went on, and Owen was announced dead later on in the broadcast.
Yeah, so like for me, the first circumstantial evidence that was weird was the stunt itself. The idea of using a rig, that's what it was, a rig with
Mhm.
claps on it. The idea for that for Owen wasn't even put together until that weekend. Like the pay-per-view was Sunday when he died.
Wow.
That Friday, someone from WCW came over, was like, hey, maybe we could lower you're one of your wrestlers into the ring like we do for Sting. At the time, there was a wrestler named Sting. His gimmick was he couldn't wrestle because he was hurt. And so for a while, he would just hang out in the rafters and watch, and everyone loved it. And, he looked like the Crow from The Crow.
Yeah.
So they would drop him in the middle of the ring with the thing. He'd take it off and beat people up with bats and stuff like that. So they're like, hey, maybe we could do that for one of your wrestlers. Because they actually had their own stunt guy.
So it should have worked.
Well, theoretically, they had their own stunt guy who walked away because he wanted too much money. So they hired the second group from, let's be like, oh, we could do this for you too. And the second one was like, oh, we'll do it. And then the guy who was like, oh, wanted too much money, he came back. He was like, you know what, I'll take less money, I'll do it. And at that point, Vince was like, nah, we don't need you no more. And just like, we'll go with these new people that we don't know anything about them.
So Vince McMahon was like in charge of all these other wrestlers?
Well, ultimately it comes down to, at the time he was shown as an announcer. No one knew really that he was the owner. Everyone thought he was just someone who worked there.
Oh, okay. So he kind of controls what happens, what doesn't happen.
Yeah, the storyline.
So that's why
wins the championships.
Yeah, these events spark something in people's heads because he's involved in like every single one.
Yeah, and they ignored the guy who came back like, I'll do it. Give me less money, I'll do it. They ignored him.
Right. And we're thinking that guy he wouldn't have gotten hurt.
Well, I don't think so. Well, you'll find out why, because we have a bunch of information coming up.
All right, so McMahon didn't like how long it took to take off the getup after getting lowered into the ring, so he switched out the rig for a boating rig, something not meant for stunts. They even had legal issues stemming from the fact that they knew the latch would open early at times. That's fucked up.
They were told that they should even put a warning on it. Again, it's for boating. It's not really necessarily for stunts.
Right. They shouldn't. That's like those little clips that you get for your keys and shit, and it says, oh, not for rock climbing. It's like stuff like that. Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
And as we said before, right before Owen Hart fell, there was a loud popping sound. And this was said to be from the malfunctioning of the claps, like it broke open.
Yeah, that makes sense.
From the tension of the weight. Because Hart, even though he's only a 6'1" guy, he was like 220 pounds. He's pretty beefy. And it was supposed to hold like thousands of pounds, but it was like a quick release. This way, when he gets down, he can just slide it right off and get right into the action.
I see why, for theatrical reasons, they would want a quicker release, but being lifted 75 feet in the air, that's fucked up.
Yeah, he was in the rafters. He was being lowered. He didn't get lifted up.
Right, but either way, like, you're in the air 70 feet is fucked up. It's not like you're 5 feet from the ground. Where you can't get hurt from 5 feet, maybe a little bit, but like a bruise. It's fucked up.
Yeah. I actually think the popping sound was from a forceful release. We're going to say what if that loud popping sound was because the stuntman, whose name was Bobby Talbert, didn't accidentally release him? What if he went in and pulled on the clip so it would pop and he would fall?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's actually someone in the audience who says they saw him push him or something like that. But there was no evidence he actually pushed him. He was, waiting in the suit, waiting to drop.
Mhm.
It was really messed up. They kept going on with the show. They had the guy's blood in the ring. Like some of these people are his best friends, and they told him, no, keep going wrestling. And when they found out he was dead, like literally his blood is in the ring. Like everyone's like on it. And they tell people later on that he died, and they didn't tell anybody in the arena. Like everybody at home knew. Everyone in the arena was just like, oh, this is great. That was part of the show. What's that part of the show? I don't know.
That's fucked up. That's really fucked up. That actually reminds me of a time that the Undertaker was coming out of the ring, and all of a sudden there was a fireball and that word is hard. There was a fireball enveloping the Undertaker, and Pyro Guy from that incident was fired before the match was over.
Yeah, so while the match was going on, that guy was fired. And all he did was burn one of their top stars.
Right, this guy literally killed someone.
So what do you think what happened to him? You think he was blackballed from ever working on WWF or WWE
No,
projects?
they probably wanted him to do more of this pyro shit.
Actually, he didn't do stunts for them again, but he became a movie stuntman, and he actually did movies with John Cena and The Rock.
John Cena.
Bow, bow, bow.
Do you smell what The Rock is cooking?
But isn't that a little weird that you're letting your wrestlers work with this guy who killed one of your stars?
I think it's fucked up.
Because he didn't say, like, let's say he murdered him, like the what if he murdered him. He messed up somehow, and Owen Hart wound up dying. And I feel like, what if Vince McMahon didn't blackball him and get rid of him from working as people because he was like, well, that's what I hired you for.
Right. Yo,
And here's a little
true.
perk. Keep working. You could do a couple of these movies with my guys.
It's true. It's true. I don't know. I know that there's instances where people are found not guilty, and we just have to accept that they're not guilty and just keep it moving.
Even though we don't really know the truth.
So it's like, why is this any different? We can't just, say he's a fucked up person without any
Yes,
concrete.
this is what if. Again, what if this is not real?
Yeah.
This is for entertainment only.
We wonder.
I don't really.
think.
I don't really think Vince McMahon killed these people. There's just like a lot of weird, wonky things that, like, well, what if he did?
I mean, you can't help but be like, oh, what's the connection here? You're the connection. What did you do? So Owen Hart was reportedly planning to take a break from wrestling to spend more time with his family. He, at this point, had a nice nest egg and was excited to be around his kids and wife. He felt wrestling was moving on to more edgy stuff, and he was a family man. Also, there seems to be some kind of curse against the Hart family and the Hart Foundation.
So those who don't know, because yes, this is a murder mystery true crime, but it's also wrestling stuff. Hart Foundation was this staple, which is a group of wrestlers who get together and help each other win stuff. So it was Bret Hart, Owen Hart, their brother-in-law, British Bulldog. At one time was Brian Pillman.
Okay.
And Jim the Anvil Neidhart.
Mm-hmm.
3 of them wound up being dead by 2003. And Bret Hart himself suffered a stroke and couldn't wrestle anymore because he got kicked in the face by Goldberg. Gave him a stroke right in the ring. Could never.
So this
wrestle
whole
again.
family is just dealing with a lot of bullshit and shitty stuff.
Mm-hmm. There seems to be a lot of curses on wrestling families, but it could be one of those things that you're into drugs and all this other stuff, drinking. You
Yeah,
get
and
this
it's not good to get
popularity.
hit so much and stuff. Even though it's fake or scripted, you still,
Oh, that comes up later on, by the way, too. But we'll get into that later. And then after the event, right, Vince McMahon has a press conference. And this for me was weird. I know he just had an employee die because of his company's unsafe stunt. But take a listen to this. Does this sound like he feels bad? Or does it sound like he's trying to deflect off blame?
Owen was simply to descend into the ring in superhero-like fashion.
Why was he not on a full A line or some other backup line, which is normally used for anybody that's using a rig? There would be a safeguard that someone would control.
I'm not an expert on rigging. I guess you are.
Well, it would appear that there were no precautionary measures taken. Why not?
First of all, I resent your tone. No, I resent your tone, lady, okay? This was a tragic accident. It's a tragic accident. Don't try and put yourself in the spotlight here, okay? This was an accident. Do you understand what I'm saying? An accident. And everything that should have taken place in terms of rigging, to our knowledge at this moment, did take place. It was rehearsed in the afternoon, and everything was fine. And that's all I know.
And then the last one.
The last what if. What if Vince McMahon killed Chris Benoit? This case was originally an idea for this episode. Was the original idea for this episode, but Sky saw potential what if moments everywhere. There's been even more suspicious deaths of wrestlers with ties to WWE. So Benoit is known as a killer of both his wife and son in June 22nd, 2007.
Yeah, he wound up killing his family over the weekend. For those that you remember, it was all over the news. But there are some weird coincidences in this case that it's really weird. Like, you know, for all we know, this is what happened. Benoit killed his family. But the things that correlate with it just, there's too many, like there's more definitely involved than we know. So the murders have been reported to have taken place over the weekend of the 22nd. That Friday, Nancy Benoit, an ex-wrestler herself, was killed. Their son Daniel the next day. And at some point on Sunday, Benoit hanged himself. While that is the official story, there are some oddities that stand out. One or two coincidences, that's fine. But more than that, then it needs to be looked into a little bit harder.
Chavo Guerrero, a friend and fellow WWF wrestler of Benoit, has stated the following. That Friday night, he spent 45 minutes on the phone with Chris. Chavo mentioned towards the end of the conversation, Chris said someone was knocking on the door. When Chris went to check the door, Chavo stated he heard a commotion, then the line went dead. And Chris was unreachable for 3 hours.
And I want to mention,
unreachable.
Too, that we just said that Nancy died on Friday night.
Yeah.
So Benoit has some kind of commotion at the front door, and his line goes dead for 3 hours. And then at that time, his wife got killed. That to me seems a little weird. Mm-hmm. Like, if he was going to do something, why even say, "Oh, someone's at the door," and then make a commotion? You would just say, "All right, I'm gonna go down."
He needed somebody to hear that, you know, he needed some type of alibi, some last minute alibi.
Oh, you think it was like pretend you're gonna break into my house type stuff, and then I'll go kill my wife?
No, just him calling up his friend and acting like, oh, somebody's breaking in. So the friend
breaking in, someone was knocking on the door.
Right, whatever. Same thing.
Someone's at the no, it's not. One's at the door, like, "Hey, can I come in?" So he hears
Yeah,
Chris.
but him hearing commotion.
He heard Chris go to the door, open it, and hear somebody else.
Right.
Then a commotion happens, and then the phone shuts off. It wasn't like, you know.
It was set up. It was a setup, yo. He wanted his friend. He wanted Chavo Guerrero to hear.
Guerrero.
Guerrero?
Guerrero, yeah. Eddie Guerrero.
The spelling is weird, but anyway, I think, I really think that this could have been all like a setup. It could have been him playing a YouTube video like, oh, somebody's knocking on the door.
And why?
So he killed, Chris Benoit killed his family, but he wanted Guerrero to hear, like, you know, to tell the police, like, if they questioned him, to be like, oh, no, it couldn't have been Chris. I heard somebody at the door.
Then why kill himself?
I don't know. Maybe he got caught or something. I don't really know. I mean, isn't it like, didn't he go crazy? Like, we don't really know. He had like a lot of brain injuries, and that's why.
Well, you were talking about head injuries causing pain and stuff like that. He actually caused a lot of brain damage from doing a move. He would jump off the top rope and land with his forehead, knocking into the wrestler on the floor. Flying headbutt.
Yeah.
Even the guy who taught him how, like, it was his partner back in the day, he used to do all the time. Bill, I forget his name. He worked with British Bulldog back in the day, and he helped him wrestle and showed him this move. And even the guy who invented the move, went paralyzed in the neck from the move.
Yeah, I think this definitely has something to do with all the brain injuries that he's had, and maybe he went crazy because of that.
I don't know.
It could have been something so simple.
Afterwards, Chavo finally gets a hold of Chris, and he says Chris is groggy and tired, and there's no explanation of the scuffle sounds. So that would be the time that he says, "Hey, tell the cops, oh yeah, some guy was here. I don't know what happened, and he didn't do all that. And then Chris says, "I love you," in a way that feels off to Chavo. He says they used to tell each other they loved each other all the time, but it sounded like he was making a point, like, "Hey, Chavo, just want you to know, I love you. Like, no matter what happens, no matter what you hear, no matter what's going on." I think there were people in the house.
But why? Why was anybody after Chris Benoit?
We'll keep going. There's more information on the way.
Well, that kind of goes along to a voicemail. Sorry. Well, that kind of goes along to a voicemail to someone who knew Chris. I don't know about you, but I hear dragging sounds mixed with groaning. Listen for it.
This is Benoit again. It's plus 5:02 in the afternoon. So I'm virtually in the answer earlier. Heard I go on production cruise. We guys on the way home into Atlanta. So he kind of got shafted over, and I was really fucking fucked. But if there's anything I can do at all, man, please give me a call and let me know. And fuck, man, nothing changed the experience. Like, nothing should be better than experience. And you got that. It's like, I'm just I'm talking shit right now. I don't know what the details are off the top of my head, but I think as well with you, man. And I just missed you the last couple of weeks. When I pointed it out, I hope you're doing well. Oh, man, please give me a call and let me know. And,
Then on Sunday, texts were sent to two different people, one from Chris's phone and another from Nancy's. Oh, shit.
Yeah, so Groggy, Chris.
And by Sunday, they were all dead. Everybody's dead.
Yep. And then it's weird because, that phone was never found. Chris's phone, they have Nancy's, but not Chris's.
Wow.
So the police even shut the phone down, so you can't even use it anymore. You can't pick it up. You can't call it, to see where it is, see if it's vibrating.
You can't
somewhere.
even track it.
Nope, because it's off. And that's what. Can I say that that's really weird? By the way,
that is really fucking weird. They should have tried to find where the phone was, especially if somebody sent a text from that phone.
Then there's the
that's
fact.
Fucking weird.
The original medical report stated Chris died on Saturday, which makes sense when you found that Chris's body was actually said to be pretty badly decomposed. Like if it happened on Sunday, that was only a day or two when they found him. They're saying the decomposition was like a couple days old.
I was gonna say I don't think
almost as bad as Nancy's, and she was dead on Friday. So if it was almost as bad as Friday, that sounds like he died on a Saturday.
It just seems weird because your body doesn't really decompose that fast either. Like,
but
how soon till they found his body?
Like 5 days. Well, Friday for Nancy because they didn't find it till Monday, so which is 4 days. So, but still, it's even, there's still, the body does break down over a couple of days because it's not breathing. It's like rotted meat. If you leave rotted meat out in the sun.
I figured it would just get bloated and that's it.
You know what's funny though, is who texted those people on Sunday if the original report said he was dead on Saturday?
Right.
And there's evidence that says that he maybe have been dead longer. And then where's the phone?
I think it sounds like maybe they set up auto text too, to send a text at a certain time. I wonder if some phones can do that, send a text at 9 p.m.
I don't think in 2006,
but
this
it's
was possible.
Weird why they would do that too. Let's say the killer set up the phone in that way to send a text later on. Let's say that was possible. Why would the killer want to do that?
Well, if you remember the voicemail we just talked about too, in the voicemail you hear him talking to somebody, and all of a sudden you hear a groaning sound, some dragging sounds, and like a kid groaning. And then all of a sudden he starts to say weird, he gets a little tongue tied. So it feels like someone was maybe hurting them and he was telling them he had to go along with it. Maybe he thought if he went with it, they were going to keep him alive. And they was like, you know what? We don't need you no more either. And they killed him off at the end too.
It just doesn't make sense. I feel like it would make more sense that he killed his family and himself than someone else killing him and his family.
Yeah, that I agree with that. But where's his phone?
Yeah.
Why is it saying the original report says he was dead Saturday, but that didn't fit the whole thing of the person dying on a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday?
Yeah.
Why are there voicemails and recordings and people saying that somebody was at the house that night? It's just really weird.
It is. Even though Benoit was surrounded by steroids, beer cans, and wine bottles, his system was clear of those. But he did have hydroquode and Xanax in his system, a combination that would make Chris sedated. Yet he had the strength to move hundreds of pounds to create a sort of twisting.
Yeah, everyone thinks he hung himself. Well, he actually did because he wasn't even hanging. He was leaning on his thing and he used the cable wire as a turnip. And he twisted it and got it so it would strangulate him. Wouldn't it be easy just to hang yourself? Why would you sit there and make a twisting noose? You had to twist it.
I don't even think that's possible for somebody to kill themselves in that way either. Your body fights to survive. You know what I mean? So it's just weird. It's weird. That doesn't sound right at all. Yeah.
And the amount of stuff he had in his body,
That's
he
why
was going to be moving hundreds of pounds.
Yeah, and then like that's why people do the noose and they kick the chair because then they can't get down. They can't turn back.
He even put a white towel around his neck to protect his neck from like damage. His wife was tied up and which is strange because Benoit was a steroid freak. He was super strong. He didn't need to tie her up to do all this. And even like, I think some of the reports were so ridiculous. They even said that one time that he killed his son by putting him in a wrestling move that he does called the Crippler's Crossface. So basically he puts you down on the ground. He takes your arm, pulls it behind your head, puts it between his legs, then takes his arms and pushes them around your head and like squeezes your head and pulls your arm out like out the socket type stuff. And that's how crazy the story was of that weekend. And they even, you know what, it's funny is McMahon even did a service for him. And then he found out that, he killed his whole family. I think he did that because he thought someone killed them. I think he hired somebody to kill them. And so they were like, we'll kill him. We'll just make it look like he killed everybody, murder-suicide. And this way they won't be looking for anybody. Because even though in that show, it was like, nothing's wrong. Like, didn't he just die? Oh, someone killed him. It's like, oh no, he killed himself. I didn't know about that part. You didn't tell me that part. You just told me you were going to kill him. So I'm over here saying, look at this great man. He was killed. And then the next day he got to pretend like he's just, and then he gets rid of him from everything. Like you can't watch him wrestle, some of his best videos, his winning, because they didn't want that connection because he killed his family, which is understandable. It's just so weird.
Yeah. And just like Owen, Benoit wanted to step away from wrestling to spend time with his family. So it's like, do we think that the WWE?
You don't turn your back on Vince McMahon. You don't leave him. You know, if he uses you until you're no longer necessary to use, and then he gets rid of you.
That seems to be the case.
But 2007, when this happened, wasn't even like the only person who died from the wrestling business. You have Bam Bam Bigelow, Sherry Martel, and Brian Adams, all wrestlers from the 80s and 90s, all died from a drug overdose. But what if that year continued his hit list? And my theory is what if is the reason that they did a Benoit tribute, I know I said this a little bit, but I want to get more into it, was because of potential misinformation. What if Vince ordered the hit, but wasn't told he was going to be a murder-suicide, and as a way to redirect blame, and so no problem giving a tribute to a man who just murdered his family?
It's kind of sad.
The whole thing is, yeah.
And then, did you know that Nancy left another wrestler for Chris? She was married to a guy named Kevin Sullivan, a one-time member of the WWE's board of directors. Their divorce was just 10 years before.
So on the 10-year anniversary of the divorce, his ex-wife dies. Gets killed by somebody. And a lot of people say it's this Kevin Sullivan guy because back in the day, there was a storyline with him and the woman her name was Woman. And they would be married, and Chris' storyline would come in and steal his wife, which became like a real life thing. And Chris Sullivan always says that he has no problem, no ill will.
Kevin Sullivan.
Kevin, what did I say?
Chris.
Sorry. He has no ill will towards the man, but if you see some of his interviews, he kind of does.
He seems like he's salty.
Yeah. And for it to be on the 10, you leave me 10 years ago, I'm going to murder all you. What if it was Kevin Sullivan who came to the door? And that's why he let him like I kind of know you, but like, I'm not going to let you in, and scuffle. Now I'm in. And I work for Vince, so you have to let me in. I'm part of Vince's board of directors.
Yeah.
I don't know if this was around the same time, but Kevin Sullivan has pull in the wrestling business. And there is some evidence to say that the woman who found the murdered bodies was either a childhood friend of Kevin Sullivan or a cousin. So it's all like, if that was true, it's really weird that his next door neighbor would be affiliated with someone who supposedly hates Chris.
Everybody hates Chris.
Oh
my God, not again.
You know what that sound means? That sound means it's time to go.
It's time to go.
We hope you enjoyed the little take on what if Vince McMahon had a hit list. And it's more to just to talk about WWE, some weird deaths and some of their like it's little weird things. Owen Hart wasn't that weird. But it's definitely weird that they came out of nowhere and he was promoted and does all this other shit. And Brian Pillman's another one. But it's like the background behind it. It's like, I could see somebody who has billions of dollars. Oh, you're going to screw me? Nah, get rid of him. Kill him.
Yeah, no, I see it too. After listening to the story too, watch out for Vince McMahon, guys.
Especially if you're a woman. Supposedly. Allegedly. Oh, man, we got to get out of here because, you know, they're going to break down the story in a second. So you can catch us on what is it? WKMU Radio Pod on Twitter.
Okay.
You can see Blue on Sky Blue.
Blue Sky.
Blue Sky. BLUSKY on Facebook. Messenger.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Messenger, Facebook, same shit.
Same shit.
And then I think that's it, right? Let's get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, let's get out. Let's jump out the window.
All right. As always.
Check on your friends, everybody. And we love you.
Yeah, everyone deserves love, even you. Like all of us. And always remember that.
This has been a WKMU production. Signing out.
This concludes our broadcast day. Good night, and God bless America.